Well, you know what that sound means. It's time for me to welcome you to the March 14, 2026 meeting of the Mountain View Computer Users Group and the Bazz MacGeek Show. This is a special Pi Day episode. So you get stuck with me. Pi Day. If you haven't already, please help yourself to a slice of pie from the refreshments table and settle in for some fun here. I haven't got any pie yet. So my name is Barry Midgorden, Vice President of Mountain View Computer Users Group, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. We have a couple of sponsors this month. Once again, a return of our very own mathematician, Carolyn McLean, the Candle Lady. There's nothing like the lovely scents of Mia Bill's candle fragrances to lift your spirits and make your home smell great. So check out the current line of seasonal favorites here. She's got quite a few things going on her page this month. Elderberries is the March fragrance of the month. Looks like kind of a preview for an Easter scent, toasted cinnamon crunch. I guess rabbits like toast with cinnamon on them. And a whole line of wine scented candles. Interesting. So if you're a wine aficionado and you want to smell it when you're not drinking it, you can light one of these candles. And of course, this month is also St. Patrick's, and there's Bella's Irish Cream candle. So text, email, or phone your order to Carolyn, or you can shop at scent-team.com/gift. And thank you, Carolyn, for sponsoring Mountain View Computer Users Group. Our second sponsor, I always have to give a plug when I'm doing the presentation to my dear wife, Lucinda, and her podcast, Story Power. You can find it at her blog, Sage Woman Chronicles, at sagewoman.life. The podcast itself is bi-weekly. Every other week it comes out. It explores our human connection, creativity, and commonality through the power of story. The stories we write, stories we film and share with our friends, our family, and the world. So you can find Story Power on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you happen to get your podcasts. She also has exclusive content at patreon.com/storypower. So you can subscribe for extra features and extra interviews and stuff for very little. I'm going to add a little extra here. She has a YouTube channel she does with her sister. It's also kind of story-based, but it's called Classic Cinema with the Sage Sisters. She's been going, they're up to like episode 30 or something like that. YouTube/Classic Cinema. You just do a search on YouTube, you can find it. But they talk about a classic movie that they love, and they have some themes they pursue in relationship to whatever the film is. So that's another option to look up her content. And no more extra sponsors. But if you or you know someone who would like to sponsor a meeting, here's the fees and benefits: $10 per meeting, $100 per year. You get a slide during the meeting with an ad read like we just had. It goes into the meeting video, obviously. It's posted on the Mountain View Computer Users Group YouTube channel. When it goes public, it'll be out in the public. We also give a thank you mention and put your link on our Facebook page. Today's agenda: a little business having to do with the club. Most of you have been through that before. We have some timely tech topics, some tips of the month. We don't have any favorites this month. We're going to skip those just for time's sake. A little open question and answer if you've got any. And we are going to have terms of the month, which have to do with our main topic, spam and scams, how to minimize, report, and protect yourself in this digital age. All right, some MVCUG business. First off, we are welcoming you. And it's our time to welcome any visitors or new members, which I don't see any of this morning. Glad to have you all that are regulars with us. And we'll introduce our officers real quick. Everybody knows this guy, John Biono. He's not here. That's why you got me. Mike McLean, one of our vice presidents, a guy that's the Windows expert in our midst. He also has a lot of background in cybersecurity and networking. He was an educator in those areas before he retired. I'm your vice president in charge of Apple gizmos and technologies. And Carolyn, Mike's wife, excuse me, Mike's her husband, our treasurer. We don't have a treasurer's report. She did send a sign-in sheet to me. And one more on our officer corps, Jim Emmons, our webmaster. He likes to keep a low profile, as we've all know by this time. Our website, MVCUG.org. And you can go there to learn about how to become a member if you're not already. You can refer somebody. All the benefits of membership are upcoming monthly topics if you look under meetings and some more. There's a bunch of links there. Jim likes to populate it with some useful computer links for people that do personal computing. Now, we also have a Google group email list at groups.google.com. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Remember that when you type it in, you got to have hyphens in between all the words in our group name. Once you are a paid member, you get added to that list automatically as long as we know your email address that you are using. You should get a notice. And if you haven't gotten a notice about joining the email list, let any officer know and we'll get you set up. You can post questions, comments, links, give people an opportunity to see the answers to your questions, which benefits the whole membership that get the email list. And you can interact via email by using this address, mountain-view at googlegroups.com. All right. Some other benefits for membership. We do have a couple of pieces of hardware that members can check out. And one of the main benefits is professional consultation discounts from John and myself. You can text us or leave a message on our phones. So what's coming up beyond today? Well, we're going to do spams and scam today. Next month, April 11th, we have the topic that was originally scheduled for today, but because John found out it was going to be gone, we had to flip topics. So in April, we are having the topic, which was originally titled How the Internet Works. Still going to cover that information, but John has retitled it. It's got new graphics. He's calling it the magic of the internet because how the internet works is sometimes magical or just mysterious that it even does work. Subtitled How to Survive in the Digital Age. So come to find out how all this works globally. So in May, online security best practices. I'm going to mention a little bit about these today, but only in terms of you should be doing it. In May, we'll cover how you do it. Using passwords, two-factor authentication, passkeys, those kinds of things. And then in June, computer best practices. So just simple stuff. Going over the basics again, backups, computer maintenance, data recovery. Maybe even talk a little bit about keeping your devices clean and not just clean from digital junk. Anyway, so that's what's coming the next 3 months. Any questions about the Mountain View Computer Users Group or membership thereof? Okay, well, we will move right on to at first, I only had one big thing to share, but a couple other things kind of crossed my radar. But so we'll have like three short stories here. First week in March, Apple had some major product announcements. It was actually only 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, March 2nd through the 4th. On the 2nd, it actually started with my second item here, but there's a couple of new pieces of hardware or updated pieces of hardware that Apple announced on the 2nd of March. They brought out the iPhone 17e, which is their entry-level budget iPhone. In 2024, iPhone 16 line was introduced. And then in the spring of 2025, they came out with this new phone called the iPhone 16e. And it replaced an older budget level, entry level phone they just called the iPhone SE. And they hadn't upgraded that one in 2 or 3 years. It was just very sporadic. It had only been like 2 generations. The fact that they numbered it 16e kind of telegraphed, oh, they're going to do this every year because it's part of the 16 line, even though it's like 6 months after the 16s came out originally in the fall. So we did get the 17e. It's an upgraded version of the 16. There's a lot of very similar features, but they did add the MagSafe charging to the back of it, which the 16 did not have. And of course, it has an upgraded system on a chip to the latest version that the 17 lines of phones are using. It uses the A19 chip. This phone starts at $599. So also on the 2nd, they announced their upgrade of the iPad Air line to the M4 processors. There's 2 sizes of iPad Air. There's a 11-inch, which is the size I've got here sitting here, and then there's a 13-inch. It's like there's the same 2 sizes in the iPad Pros, but the iPad Airs offer some kind of Pro-like features for a much better price. I don't have the starting price listed here on my thing, but you can look all this up, of course, on Apple's website. And then on the 3rd, they introduced 4 products, starting with an update to the Studio Display line. This is Apple's only displays that they're manufacturing and selling. Technically, really not in the consumer display market, unless you buy an iMac, which is the computer that has the display built in, obviously, the all-in-one. These are 27-inch displays. The plain Studio display was initially came out with the Mac Studio. I think that was 2023. It's a 5K display, I believe. It just updated. It actually has a computer processor inside of it as well. Actually, it's an iPhone level. It's an A line level processor. So it has a new processor inside of it. But then they added a new version of it called the Studio Display XDR. This display replaces their Pro Display XDR, which is like a reference monitor for high-end video work. And the Pro display was a 32-inch 8K display. It was like 10 grand. But it was in the class of displays that like video production houses would normally spend 30 or 40 grand on. So it was actually cheaper than the other things it was competing with in the market, but it's not a consumer display. They've canceled that display completely now, and the Studio Display XDR replaces it, but it's 27 inches instead of 32 inches. It has the same basic features in terms of the quality of the display. It retails for $4,000, but you don't have to buy the stand extra like you did with the Pro display. That was just something they threw in that week. And they also introduced on the 3rd the M5 Pro and Max system on a chip. So in the fall, we had the M5 come out, and the M5 was put in a MacBook Pro, and everybody thought, well, where's the Pro and Max level, the higher end chips for the real professional work? Well, we finally got them. These chips, along with the M5, the whole M5 line, have been specifically designed with the use of AI in mind. So they have a system, built into them at the silicon level that allows them to run local models efficiently. So it reduces the need to use a cloud-based large language model to do AI work. And then next, oh no, wait, there's one more from that day. What was it? Oh, that's right. So along with the Pro and Max level chips, they introduced the updates to the MacBook Pro with those chips in them for the professionals that want that power on their laptop. The laptops also come in 2 sizes. I think there's a 14 and a 15-inch or a 13 and a 15. They're very expensive machines. But if you're making your living doing professional audio and video, and time is money, these things are wicked fast and probably within your budget if you're making the kind of money that those professionals make doing that kind of work. They also updated the MacBook Air line with an M5 chip. You can't get the Pro or the Max level chips in a MacBook Air. This is basically the same MacBook Air that had the M4 in it from the last generation, but it's got a faster chip in it. And of course, it's got the AI level stuff on the chip for that line. And I think the pricing is all the same as it was before. So it starts at no, man, no, that's wrong. It went up $100. I think it starts at $1,100 now instead of $1,000. However, there's a new entry-level MacBook they introduced on the 4th of March called the MacBook Neo. And this machine is actually a no-compromise entry-level Mac for $599. It uses a phone chip. It uses an A19 from the iPhone 17 line. So you basically got the power of a laptop computer in a modern iPhone these days. It's a 13-inch screen, so it's basically the same size as a MacBook Air, the smaller of the MacBook Airs. There are two sizes of MacBook Airs again. This computer I'm using is a MacBook Air with the M1, first generation. This MacBook Neo with the iPhone A19 outperforms this machine. And this machine, it's 4 years old now, 5 years old. I don't notice it being anything less than it was when it was brand new in terms of its productivity. I mean, I use graphic design software on it. I do some video editing on it. Yeah, I'm sure that their pro level machines would work faster, but for somebody that just wants to get into an Apple laptop and all their needs are pretty basic, the MacBook Neo is going to be a great entry-level machine. This is going to be a great machine for students because you get a $100 discount. So a student can get into a Mac laptop for $499. It's available in two configurations. Both of them have 8 gigabytes of RAM because that's the limit for the iPhone chip that it's using. The entry level, that's the $599, $499 education, is 256 gigs of storage. If you want 512 gigs of storage, it's $699, $599 education, and it also adds Touch ID on the keyboard. And what I understand is after a week of availability, they started pre-orders last Friday, a week ago yesterday, and they started delivery on Wednesday of this week. If you ordered one now, it's going to be April before you can get one. They're already so much a high demand on these machines. And I think what's interesting, it was pointed out on a podcast I listened to, that if someone was curious and really wanted to dip completely into the Apple ecosystem, they can now do so for less than $2,000 and get an iPhone 17e, a MacBook Neo, an entry-level iPad, just a basic iPad, not an Air or Pro, the entry-level Apple Watch, and a pair of iPods 4, all for less than you would buy a Mac Studio entry-level professional computer. But that computer doesn't come with a monitor or a keyboard or a mouse or anything. Our second tech story. I thought this was interesting. Meta rolls out new features for scam protection. It's on topic for our meeting today. What does that mean? Well, when they get this implemented, I don't know if it's in live yet or not, you'll start to see alerts on suspicious activities across Facebook, WhatsApp, and Messenger. Those were the 3 apps that this article from Engadget mentioned specifically. They also own Instagram and Threads. Hopefully it'll be all those products, all those platforms eventually. What their plan is, they're launching AI tools, that's the day we live in, for identifying impersonator of brands and celebrities, which is a big deal, apparently, like, fake celebrity endorsements and stuff like that, fake deals on name brands. And they're hoping that this will detect deceptive links so they can quickly take down those fraud accounts. In this article from Engadget, they do give some statistics that they estimated that marketing for scams and banned products could have been responsible for 10% of Meta's 2024 revenue. And they've been highly criticized for leaving these kinds of things in place because, well, we're making money. Why not? They've been sued. And so they said that over the course of 2025, they did remove 159 million scam ads, as well as 10.9 million Facebook and Instagram accounts tied to criminal scam centers. So they have been trying to up their game. We're going to add new alerts to caution against interacting with a potentially fraudulent account. So if the account is still active, they haven't been able to get rid of it. Hopefully the AI will flag it and it'll tell you when you see it on your screen, and they're going to expand their processes for verification of their advertisers. We'll see what happens. Social media is kind of a hot mess in general these days. My personal advice is to just ignore everything and just interact with your friends that you know. Send a picture, somebody. Here's the sunset today. Don't click on ads on social media. Anyway, story number 3, going back to Apple. I did check the Microsoft newsroom website for Microsoft press release to see what was going on in the Microsoft world. All the stuff that they're posting is talking about pushing all the stuff that Copilot's doing these days. And we've just had 3 months worth of stuff about AI. I thought we could skip Copilot. But there is some things going on in Microsoft land too. So just this week, there was some official press release and letter writing from Apple about celebrating their 50th anniversary. April 1st is the 50th anniversary of the founding of Apple, and that's no fooling. So on the 12th of March, the newsroom on Apple's website issued a press release to mark the occasion. And a quote from a paragraph here: "In the coming weeks, Apple and its global community will celebrate the company's 50th anniversary, recognizing the creativity, innovation, and impact that people around the world have made possible with Apple technology." Now, who knows exactly what that kind of mean and what they mean by celebrate. 50% off. Yeah. Somebody mentioned that on a podcast I was listening to. Maybe they'll send everybody a MacBook Pro. You know, wouldn't that be nice? They could certainly afford it, but no, that's probably you don't hold your breath on that one. But one thing that did already happen, just I think it was yesterday, or was it that maybe it's Thursday? I think it was Thursday. The Apple Store in New York City in Grand Central Station was shut down, closed up, and then the next day, I guess that would have been yesterday, there was an impromptu concert by Alicia Keys, just for whoever was in the public walking through the Grand Central Station. They got a musical concert that Apple said we're starting our celebration of 50 years this way. Some of the executives were there. Tim Cook was there, marketing chief Greg Joswiak, retail head Deidre O'Brien, and hardware engineering boss John Turnus. So also on Thursday, Tim Cook posted an open letter on apple.com with his own personal message about the 50th anniversary of Apple. So if you're interested in what the press release was, you can go to apple.com/newsroom. And if you want to see Tim Cook's letter, you go to apple.com, and there's a link right on their homepage. More to come on that 50 years of thinking different. That's all the tech news I have today. All right, so we're off to tips of the month. And have I got a tip for you? I've got 3, and Mike has 1. So our Windows tip of the month is about security settings. Again, an on-topic tip. This is Windows 11, I believe he's talking about. Windows 11 security settings. Take it away, Mike. It's got kind of a long intro, but he'll get there.
Hi there, I'm Mike McLean, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about using Windows 11 security settings. So to get to those, we get to our Start menu down here, bring that up, find the little gear icon for settings as always, and if I open that up, I'm going to assume it's starting at home. I drop down to Privacy and Security down here, and we're going to be looking at the section that says Windows Security. So a lot of other options on that page, but this is the section we're going to be concerned with today. And if I go up here to this first one, it says Open Windows Security. Down below this are various protection areas. As it turns out, if you open Windows Security, it brings up essentially the same thing. The only thing that's different is down at the bottom, it has a listing for protection history. View your latest protection actions and recommendations. And surprise, I don't have any. So we're going to ignore that and just go in and look at these protection areas. About what you would expect for a security setting. The first one is virus and threat protection, no actions needed. That's always nice to know. So if I look at that, I am running Norton's 360 instead of Microsoft Defender. Microsoft Defender is a fine antivirus, but I like a little something extra myself, so I run that. Now, if you go down below here, though, you see Microsoft Defender antivirus options, and it actually says you can keep using your current provider and have Microsoft Defender antivirus periodically check for threats. So you can turn on periodic scanning, and then Microsoft Defender will run every now and again. I tried this, and it drove Norton Antivirus absolutely crazy. And they said, well, Microsoft says that you can have extra protection, but what this really does is it messes up our antivirus. So, yeah, don't turn that on. And that's all there is there for that. That's all we need to look at there. Account protection. Again, no actions needed, which is always nice. If I look at that, first it looks at my Microsoft account. And I have options here to set up Windows Hello. Windows Hello is the Windows 11 systems for logging into your system. There are a number of options. You can use facial recognition, which I really like, but this particular desktop computer is not set up with a camera that will allow you to do facial recognition, so this is unavailable to me. Down below that, I have fingerprint recognition. Again, I don't have a fingerprint reader on this computer, so that's not available to me. What I do have available is a PIN. It recommends that. That's what I'm using on this system. I also could go with a security key, which means a physical USB key that I could insert into a USB slot. And that has my encryption keys on there that would log me in. That is a very secure way of doing it, probably a bit overkill for most people. Or I can go old school and sign in with a password, or I can use a picture password, which is something they designed for mobile devices quite some time back. You can put up a picture, and then when you log in, it will show several pictures, and you're supposed to tap on the one that you selected. It's an option, probably not that secure because you only have a limited number of pictures, and it probably be pretty easy to try by random until you got one. For additional settings for improved security, only allow Windows Hello sign in for Microsoft accounts on this device, which is recommended. Well, this computer that I'm using is my desktop, which is in my home. So I'm not too worried about this stuff personally myself. If you're traveling or if other people are around that might have access to this computer, you may want to consider these settings. Myself, I figure if I've got somebody else in my house looking at my computer, I'm probably not going to be that worried about them getting stuff off my computer as I am with them ransacking my house. So I have this stuff turned off for myself. If you've been away, once your Windows require you to sign in again, I've got that turned off. Dynamic lock, automatically lock your device when you're away. Again, I don't have that going. Automatically save my restartable apps. You can have this set up so that you can be working, you can sign off, and then when you sign back in, it'll have everything right where you wanted it. I actually don't care about that. Show account details such as my email address on the sign-in screen. Don't care about that either. I would be reluctant to show my email address to anybody walking by if I were in an office setting, though. And use my sign-in info to automatically finish setting up after an update. I have that turned off as well. I actually don't care. And then finally, lock screen personalization. I go to that. This is where you could personalize the lock screen if you have a lock screen turned on, or this is what you'll see when you first come on. I've got it set up to use Windows Spotlight, and these are all the defaults. I don't use this much. Go right past the lock screen, so I just left this to default. So it uses Windows Spotlight. Uh, it has these widgets that are running the weather, a watch list, a daily discovery and sports. And you can customize this if you like. You know, said I have very few uses for this. And you can set up a screen timeout and a screensaver here. And I get a kick out of that because the screensaver is straight back to probably Windows 7. It is from the old control panel. It has a few of the old screensavers there, not too many of them. So you could set that up there if you like. Okay, now going back, and that actually took us over to the personalization section. So I'm going to go back this way, and that's it for the sign-in options. So I'm going to go back one more. Firewall and network protection. Again, I'm using the Norton antivirus and 360. So this is all taken care of by that. Domain network, it's turned on, no action needed. Same with my handling my private and public networks. But these are available here. And here are the options that if you're using Windows firewalls by default, then there are control options here that you can use to configure that as you like. App and browser control, again, no actions needed. This gets interesting. Here are some smart app controls. Enhanced protection from untrusted apps. I have that turned off. I had compatibility issues with it, and I just had more trouble than it was worth. You might want to try it but if it causes any issues, then you can just turn it off again. Reputation-based protection. These settings protect your device from malicious or potentially unwanted apps, files, and websites. I do have those turned on. It uses Microsoft Defender Smart Screen to look for unrecognized apps and files from the web, and Smart Screen for Microsoft Edge, and phishing protection. And it will block potentially unwanted apps. These seem to work fairly well. They don't bother me too much, so I leave that on. Again, I take all the protection I can get as long as it doesn't keep me from actually using some of the programs I use. Exploit protection settings. This is one of the better things that Microsoft came up with Windows 11 is its advanced malware protection. So most of these are the system settings. I leave these by default. I would be reluctant to play with these. I'm not sure what they would do. I could turn them on and see if it affects anything, but I really see no point to messing with it. It seems to work out. And then I can customize for a couple of programs here. It looks like I can add programs to customize. So probably just want to leave those on their defaults. All right, that's it for that section. Device security, again, no actions needed. And this is another area where you probably want to leave this on default. Core isolation. This prevents attacks from inserting malicious code into high security processes. I keep this turned off because I tried turning it on and it just interfered too much with programs I was trying to run, would not let me run them. So I have that turned off. Local security authority protection and Microsoft vulnerable driver blacklist, I leave those on. So those are ways that will help protect against malware. And then it just mentions the security processor. Yes, my processor has a trusted platform module that is running secure boot, which is required to run Windows 11. So yes, this system does have those available. And data encryption. I can encrypt my hard drive from here. Again, this particular computer is my desktop computer. It doesn't leave my house, so I don't have any need for hard drive encryption. So I have that turned off myself. Device performance and health. And this just looks at my system and says, yep, I've got plenty of storage capacity. Don't have any apps and software issues. My Windows Time service is running. And it mentions fresh start here. Okay, fresh start with a clean and update to date installation of Windows. What this will do is reinstall Windows from the cloud and leave your personal files and, as I said, some Windows settings, leave them in place. It's a good way to refresh your system. Ironically, if you go to additional info, that just comes to a web page that talks about what we just saw. If you actually want to do a fresh start, Then you need to go to System and Recovery. And here we have options for resetting or refreshing your PC. And we'll have to do another tutorial on that sometime. As it is, I'm going to go back to the Windows and Security, and we only have one thing left, Family Options. This is where you get to set your parental controls. You can tell, or you can set it up so your kids can only use their system on a certain block of time, and you can get a weekly activity report of what your kids have been up to on here. And this is something I don't use myself. I don't have any kids in the house, so I don't bother with this. All right. And that is the Windows security section. As I said, there's a bunch of other things here, and we'll have to get into that at some other time. And I hope you found this helpful. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks. There's a couple things though before I go on to this next one. That in terms of the encrypting the internal hard drive that he was mentioning, he doesn't do because it's just his desktop computer. It's in his home. He doesn't travel. Doesn't go out of his house, and that's perfectly acceptable and fine for best practice for a desktop computer. It doesn't go anywhere. But if you're using a Windows laptop, I would recommend have the internal hard drive encrypted so that, if you're out and about, you're sitting there at a coffee shop or something and step away, be sure and put your computer into sleep mode or lock mode. But then the encryption's in place. And if someone tries to get into it, basically impossible without the whatever the key is to unlock it, whether it's your PIN or your facial recognition or your fingerprint or whatever. Yeah, Macintosh has a similar system. It's called File Vault. It runs in the background, and I have it turned on my laptop so that when the laptop goes to sleep, that internal drive is encrypted, and it can't be unencrypted without my fingerprint or my passcode. It's just a good idea. If you have a portable machine, it's not always in one place that's secure. I think an encrypted hard drive is a good idea. And then the last thing about the family features and about like limiting kids access to certain things on a like a family computer or whatever, there are other applications for that kind of process that could apply to older people as well. If you have someone who's not particularly tech savvy and they're prone to try to do things that they shouldn't be doing with their system, and you're a family member or you help them or somehow, you could set up restrictions so that there are certain parts of the operating system that they can't get into, or limits them to only certain apps that they know how to use, like their email or their web browser or stuff like that. I've heard of that kind of use for that kind of restrictions as well. So it's not just limited to children. Tip of the month about Apple. This is not a device necessarily. It's a more of an ecosystem kind of tip. But last month, one of the news articles, tech news that John shared was that Apple's new generation of AirTag devices were announced. A little disc that allows you to program to put in an object, a backpack, piece of luggage, your keychain, your car, whatever, in order to be able to track its location. And he said, make a note to do a short demo of that this month. So I actually put it in. I have an AirTag. This is not one of the new ones because I've had some for almost 2 years now. But I have one in my backpack and one in my suitcase, and then my wife has one in her purse and one in her suitcase for when we travel. You're going to get a little live demo about that now. And the iPhone tip of the month was about camera control and visual intelligence. There's a little bit of this that I can show you, and then I'll just speak to what I was going to demo live. So camera control and visual intelligence is also something that was brought up last month, and it has to do with the specific hardware of the iPhone line. This is a feature that I think has been in Android, at least some Android phones, probably the high-end Samsung and maybe Google Pixel phones. I think they even had something similar to this before Apple introduced it, because Apple was a little late to the game on some of this intelligence stuff. The camera control is a new button on the hardware that that was introduced on the iPhone 16 line. As you're looking at the screen, it's on the right-hand side on the lower portion of the phone. You know, the upper portion is like the on-off button or the sleep button. And then the volume buttons are on the opposite side on the left as you're looking at the screen. Above the volume buttons, there was a silence switch, and the newer phones have a button there. It's just called the action button. Out of the box, it's programmed like the silence button, but you can program it to do a number of different other things if you want to change that. But the camera control button was added as it's kind of a shortcut to launch the camera. So when your phone is awake, you can push the camera control button and it automatically launches the camera. It's a quick way to get to the camera if you want to capture something that's happening and you're caught unawares or something like that. When a camera app is open, it's also a shutter button. So you can hold your phone like you would a camera and you just push down like you would a shutter button on a more conventional camera. The iPhone 16 was the first ones that had camera control buttons. So it's a 16 and newer. This is a 16 Pro. The 17s have this as well. As part of Apple Intelligence, which in general you have to have a 15 Pro, Pro Max, or newer phone, they added this Apple Intelligence feature called Visual Intelligence on the 16 and 17s. When you push the camera control button when the camera is not open already, it gives you that little rainbow animation and opens the camera. It's not actually opening the camera app, it's just accessing the camera, and you point it at something and you have some options. You'll notice at the bottom left, just on the side of the shutter, it says ask, and on the right it says search. And I'm going to show you a little video here that tells you what you can do with this feature. So you point your camera at something and you can get information about it using visual intelligence. So here's a little clip from Apple's how-to on their support page. So when you use that ask feature, it is then uploading your question to ChatGPT and with an image of what you've pointed the camera at. You do have to have an internet connection when you do that. And it's going to ask you permission every single time. It'll say, do you want to send this to ChatGPT? And you can ask it anything about whatever you're pointing to. It doesn't have to be a recipe. You could point it at something and ask it like, what is this? A plant or an animal or something, anything. You could even, it doesn't have to even be a physical object. It could be a photo of something and you could have it do that. And then the other button was search. They don't cover it in this little video clip, but what it will do, tap that one when you're pointing at something. It'll also ask permission. It's going to send the image to Google image search, and it'll bring back a list of matching images. And if it's a product, like the little example I had on the screen a minute ago was a pillow on a couch, you could point it at any kind of product, and one of the things that will come up as in the search results from Google is where you can shop for that item. So if you want to buy something, you see something, oh, I'd like to have one of those. You can, point to a search and it'll show you where you can go buy it. That's visual intelligence. So we're going to skip this demo. This one, however, I can do. So a macOS tip, real quick. Finder window preview pane. Now, this is a feature that's been in the Finder for several versions of the operating system. So even if you're not running the latest Mac OS, this is something you take advantage of. So here's a quick demo of this. In the Finder, I'm opening a new Finder window. I'm going to go to this demo folder I have here, and I'll just go ahead and make this as big as the whole screen. I have a number of folders and some files here. Some of these folders have some stuff in them. Let's see, let's go into this images folder here, and there's a number of images. Let's say I want to see what this looks like better than just the icon for that item. one of the quick ways that's always been there since the first versions of macOS 10 is called Quick Look, and you can tap the space bar and it opens up a preview. But basically, it's going to open it up at full size or as big as it can get on your monitor. So depending on what size display it is, it's covering up stuff. So if you still want to see something, it's in the way. Space bar will dismiss it. However, you can I'll leave that selected and go to the view menu and choose show. Where is it? Show. Oh, here it is. Show preview. Show the preview. And this is available in any Finder window, no matter what mode you're looking at the contents. It has a keyboard shortcut of Shift Command P, and it opens up a right-hand sidebar with a smaller preview as well as some information about that file. And as long as it's open, you can click on any other file and it changes. If we jump out here, it also works with text. It's giving you a preview of what's inside that file. And even a video, it even has, oh, it's not downloaded. I wonder how quickly that'll download. Take my word for it. I'm not going to download it now. You'll have play controls in the preview pane. You can play the video there. Let's look in important projects. Oh no, that's not what I want. Someplace there is a keynote. I'm going to switch views here. You can show you this works in any kind of view. So you can go to a list. Let's see if this will download real quick. So you could have a slide presentation. And once it's all downloaded from iCloud Drive here, they usually don't keep things on this machine. Then you have these advanced buttons. You can see each slide in the presentation, as well as some other information underneath it. Same goes for Excel spreadsheets, PDF files, pages documents, any kind of document. So even though some of these aren't actually here, like here's a form, a PDF file, it's actually not local to this computer. It's only in my iCloud drive. It's still showing me the contents of that file in the preview page. We can look at columns. This might be where, if you're a Mac user, you may have come across this before. See, let's look at photos. When you have a photo, you have some different kinds of information. It shows you the dimensions and the resolution. You can also do some quick actions on some kinds of files, like look at the bottom down here. If you need to rotate the image, you can rotate it. It rotated it. Now this one didn't need it, but you could do a quick rotation of an image in the Finder without having to open any kind of image editing software if you needed to. And if you hold down the Option key, you can rotate the other direction. So you can also do markup, and there's a More button, which brings up some others. You can convert the image, you can make a PDF out of it, you can remove the background from the image if it's like a dog or a person or whatever, and you want to remove the background. And you can customize this More button in System Settings. Depending on the kind of file, you have a different set of actions that you can apply. The top two are always going to be the ones that are in these two slots here. The column view, you've got a folder, and click on it in the left column. It shows you the contents in the next one. Click on that. It shows you the preview pane. And that'll work even if the preview pane wasn't showing before. The column view will have a preview pane, but you can turn it off even in the column view. And it also works in the gallery view. The gallery view is actually meant to show you a bigger preview, but the preview pane is also there, so it gives you more information, obviously, from that item. And it knows, it's smart enough to know that it doesn't need a bigger preview in the preview pane because you got a big one here.
Did you do gallery view from that first icon?
Right. So this icon is your view menu. Depending on how much room you might have separate icons for each view in your control bar, the toolbar. You can also customize it. So you may have this view here where all four are visible. They compress into a little menu when there's just not enough room to show them all. The preview pane is a nice little way of checking the contents of a file, whoops, without having to open the file itself. And it works for PDFs, images, text files, word processing files, spreadsheets, all kinds of files. Pardon?
MP4.
Yeah, if it's an audio file or a video file, it'll show you, like this one, it shows the thumbnail. Ah, it downloaded it. And now it will play right there.
Hey, it's me again. As MacGeek, Barry Midgorden. I'm here to
Pause. That was last month. As long as a file is local in terms of the media like that. Back to our presentation. Now it's time for general Q&A. Anybody have any Q&A?
I have a few about the those AirTags. Is there a limited range?
They're actually fairly close range devices, and it uses Apple's Find My network. The Find My network leverages the fact that there are billions of Apple devices, specifically iPhones, all over the place. So AirTags and iPhones can sense each other when they're in proximity without disclosing who they are or who they belong to, because you program the iTag to be on your iCloud account. Your iCloud account then can, based on the fact that like somebody else's iPhone at the airport is close to my luggage, my phone will see where that is because it's communicating through this like interconnected network of devices worldwide. When you need to find something, you can go into the Find My app on your device and tap on the device where I have one that's labeled backpack. I can tap on it and it will actually show me where it was last located, where it knew where it last was. And if it's still getting an active ping through that Find My network, it will tell me how far away it is and which direction I need to go. It'll have an arrow on the screen pointing which direction I need to go. And then when it gets within a certain close range, it'll even get more granular in terms of where it is. So,
Do you know if there's anything in production or currently available for like jewelry for children so that go over your charms?
I don't know of anything off the top of my head that's been designed that has that capability built in. Apple's Find My protocols are available for third-party manufacturers and businesses to use. Like my mug has it built into this travel mug. So if I leave this mug at a rest area or a restaurant someplace, it'll let me know, oh, you've left your mug behind, and then I'll be able to find it. I know that there are e-bikes that have it built into the bike itself without having to have an AirTag or some other tracker. There are third-party manufacturers that make their own tags that aren't Apple manufactured, but they work with Find My. I don't know if it's in place yet, but Google and Apple have committed and released a press release some time ago that they were going to cooperate in terms of a cross-platform system. So that the Apple Find My worked with the Google feature that does the same thing, that will expand the capabilities of finding things using either ecosystem.
What monitors ankle monitors? Like
I don't know. I won't know that. Probably a proprietary system.
that would be the same kind of technology.
Yes, I guess so. I guess so.
Also for essentially that's GPS.
Yeah, and the ankle monitors, they have their own tracking device built into them that's probably directly connected to like either GPS or some kind of radio network that the law enforcement uses.
Or for the memory of your seniors, that are
Yeah, right.
okay. Thanks. Very
I have a new phone with an old iPad, and say if I couldn't find my phone in the house, so I was been using my iPad to find my phone. Would I be able to get it to take me right to it?
Yes, as long as the iPad is new enough that it supports the Find My.
Well, it has a Find My,
Okay.
so
yeah, it should. Yeah.
You could actually tape one of those onto your phone.
Well, you wouldn't need to have because your phone can be in the Find My network without having to have another device. Yeah.
So in my product only has the Find My ability. So this is for like throwing one in like this so that if I leave my purse somewhere,
Yeah, and I know that you can buy keychains that have a slot that you can stick these in. Even though Apple doesn't endorse it, they kind of discourage you to use AirTags for tracking animals, but there are dog collars and cat collars that have slots for these things.
why do they scourge it?
I don't know
I
why.
don't know responsibility, probably.
Maybe. There's already a system in place to get your pet chipped, which has location on it too. So they may not want to get into that. People hide them in their cars. So if your car gets stolen or you can't find them in the park, exactly. However, if you have Apple Maps, if you connect to your car with your phone via Bluetooth, Apple Maps will put a pin in the map whenever you park your car. Okay, are we done with the question and answer? We are a little past halfway, and Ava did bring up the fact we need to take a break. And we're back from our pie break. Boy, we should have pie day every month, shouldn't we? Okay, just another little reminder about silencing your devices. We're going to start off the main topic today by introducing it with our Terms of the Month feature, which we don't do very often anymore. Spam and scam. So what is spam? What does spam and scam really mean? From Wikipedia. Basically, I'm not going to read this to you. You can read it if you'd like to, but spam is unsolicited or unwanted messages. What's that?
Very edible.
Oh, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Because there is a connection. There is a connection. And in these days, these abuses occur mainly in our lives, our digital lives, instant messaging, Usenet groups online, web, blogs, wiki, online, all these different things. But phone calls, emails, texts, social media. We get a lot of spam on social media. That's why I say don't pay attention to most of it. Spam is quite a broad definition, I suppose. But where it came from, we use spam to talk about these unwanted things thanks to Monty Python's Flying Circus. The Vikings. The Vikings. Anyway, we don't like spam. Maybe you do like spam the meat. Chopped pork and ham? What's wrong with that? But when we refer to our own digital lives, we don't like spam. What is scam then? What's a scam? Well, a scam goes beyond spam because it's a trick, a con, a way of getting you to reveal something or do something or pay for something that you don't really want to, and you'll be taken advantage of and become a victim or a mark. A scam is definitely a form of spam, but darker. And I'm not talking about dark meat. Our main topic, spam and scams, how to minimize, report, and protect yourself. Now, this was brought to our attention in our topic planning meeting last September by one of our members who's in the room. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. An overview of spam and scams. Why this topic matters. Well, in America alone, we lose billions each year to scams. According to the Federal Trade Commission and the FBI, in 2024, between $12.5 and $16.6 billion were lost And that was a 25% increase over their data for 2023. So it's continuing to increase. And these agencies say that this is likely an underestimated value due to the fact that when people get scammed, they're embarrassed. They fail to report what happens. They just take it and move on with their lives. It's probably worse than what we know for sure. Senior citizens are often targeted. Of course, we know our group is seniors. We're all can say we get those senior discounts, I think. John wanted me to tell you specifically that he knows of 3 members of the Mountain View Computer User Group who have been the victims or are almost victims of scams. One was for $1,400, another was for $1,700, and he knows of somebody who lost $10,000 to a scam. John was able to intervene on one of them, the person who was about to send $1,400 to a scammer, because he just happened to be with the person when it was happening. And so he said, "No, don't do that."
And John also helped me with 2 with the same person.
Ah.
They were years apart. They got scammed once and stopped once.
Oh, it shows you really, and we'll talk about this at some point, that these people are sophisticated. They can learn how to take advantage of people and manipulate people. It's scary sometimes. Most scams rely on fear, urgency, or confusion. So we're going to talk about those kinds of things as we go along. And the question is, who's responsible? This is what brought this topic to light. Dell asked this question last September. Who is responsible for allowing spam into my emails? Spam and or scams, I'm assuming. It's likely the case there's no legitimate legal job description that says, be sure to put some spam in that person's email box. But it's the scammers. It's organized cybercrime groups. This is organized crime these days, and it has nothing to do with your computer platform, your web browser necessarily, your ISP, or who's providing your email. There are ways that those things can help, but unfortunately, I don't think at this point, beyond a grand enlightening of the human soul worldwide, that we are ever going to be able to avoid spam and scams. Con games have been around since civilization started, probably before. What we're going to cover, some bullet points here. What are spam and scams? We've looked at the definitions, but we're going to dive into this. And a lot of what we're going to focus on is the scamming part, but we will have some information on minimizing spam, how scammers trick people, how to spot the warning signs. We have a series of red flags to look for, and what to do if you receive a scamming message, and also what to do if you fall for it. Hopefully, we can learn to avoid that part of it. Okay, so understanding spam and scam. So what's the difference? Well, not all spam is a scam. We looked at the definitions. Of course, the meat is not a scam. We hope not. There would be laws against that can of spam not being what it says on the label. But there's, advertising, newsletters, political campaigns, all those kinds of things. We get messages from legitimately marketing messages from a business or a company that we've interacted with. They may not offer it, but if they do and you don't go in and look at your notification options, you may be able to turn some of them off. But if you never have done that, they're going to send you all their big promotions, and there may be a newsletter and all kinds of things. You may get several from the same company every day. There's some that are pretty pernicious. And they're not trying to scam you. They're just trying to engage you in order for you to go shopping there or whatever. There are legitimate messages that we consider spam. That's Emilio.
Sometimes they tell you, if you don't want to receive this anymore, you can unsubscribe.
I'm going to get to that too. Yeah.
I'll keep my comments to myself.
Well, you can go ahead if you'd like.
When you unsubscribe, it lets them know that's a valid email address, and so they may stop so that you can't escalate it to the feds. but then they sell your address to somebody else. So unsubscribing doesn't always help.
That's true. We'll touch on that again in a bit. All scams are spam. We don't want these things. Phishing scams, for example, and they may look legitimate. We may see that in our inboxes or text message apps and think, oh, wait a minute. But they're still scams for sure. They're certainly unwanted. For us these days, both come email, text, and phone calls, which we will focus on. The return on the investment for these scamming organizations is much higher with the digital distribution than any kind of regular mail. Scams are tricks to steal from you, either your money, your personal information, passwords for your accounts online, even your entire identity. Okay, common types of scams. Phishing emails, we just referred to a minute ago. A phishing email is an email scam that's broadcast out to thousands or millions of emails addresses all at the same time, hoping to hook a certain percentage that they can actually steal from. Fake tech support. You might get this in a web browser ad malware that takes over your screen, says, "You've got a virus, call this number immediately," blah, blah, blah. And you can't get rid of it for some reason. Actually, the way to get rid of it is to quit your browser and restart your computer. It's malware that's been inserted into a legitimate ad providing network usually. So the websites you go to that depend on advertising for paying for themselves, they don't sell the ad space themselves usually. They contract with an advertising agency basically that sells web ad space, and some scammer bought into it and inserted malware into an ad, and that's what takes over your computer. Emails saying, we'll help you get out of your situation or help you by cleaning up your computer, whatever. Those kinds of things. Package delivery notices. Hey, we've got a package for you. We can't deliver it because the zip code was invalid, or we've got to get it through customs and you've got to verify your identity or something like that. Romance opportunities. Anybody got a text with an invitation lately? Hey, can we get together? Government impersonation. You'll get messages purportedly from the IRS or Social Security or Medicare, Arizona DMV, or an agency that for toll, paying toll roads, which is all done digitally automatically these days. Tickets, paying your parking tickets, investment schemes, and high-paying employment opportunities. And they want you to go to a website and register with the promise of getting high pay for short hours. But in order for you to qualify or to do that, you're going to have to give them some money first. And then, of course, you'll never be paid anything.
Sometimes they tell you want something, but you have to pay this trading fee. I always can't get it.
Exactly. So why are we, all us older folks, likely to be targeted more? By phone, statistically, we're more likely to answer a phone when we don't know who it is. I suppose it was something to do with the way or the time in which most of us grew up that we're more likely to actually answer phone calls. Yeah, we also grew up in a gentler, kinder time, didn't we? When we could trust people and most people were polite to each other and had manners. Work must be easier to manipulate. If you're in retirement, many folks have retirement savings. The scammers want to get their grubby little hands on. Those of us that don't come to events like this or groups like this, those people are less familiar with these kinds of scams and with how to deal with digital online life. Hopefully you can share information with some of your friends, help them out. So let's look at some warning signs, some red flags that will perk up the spidey senses. Let us know, oh, there's something not quite right here. First one is urgency. You might have something in the message. Your account will be closed You have a limited amount of time to respond to this, to reconcile the issue, whatever it happens to be that they're trying to get you to do. And of course, they're after your login credentials, or they're after your credit card number information, whatever. And immediate action is required on your part in order to take advantage of this offer, those kinds of things. So if you get text, email, phone calls, and there's a sense of urgency, that doesn't smell right. Take a moment. Another red flag, requests for personal info. Somebody's asking for your social security number or passwords, credit card numbers, verification codes. I haven't seen any recently, but there was a time not too long ago when there was just a whole spate of text messages. You would get the 6-digit or whatever verification code that you usually get with two-factor authentication when you're trying to log in somewhere, but this verification code would just pop out of nowhere in your text app or messages app, and there would be a link or something. If you did not ask for this code, tap here. And of course, then you're telling them, okay, there's a live person here. They're going to then try to manipulate you into giving some information about whatever this verification code was for. Credit card numbers. If you're buying online, there's kind of a little side tip here. We want to encourage you to use your digital wallet, whatever brand kind you have, Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, other digital wallets. Your bank actually may have an app that you can use as a digital wallet. It has your debit card or whatever in it. When you use a digital wallet system for a credit card transaction, the numbers that are sent to the vendor for that transaction are not your actual card number. They're a one-time they're generated one time for that transaction only, and they have a timeout limit. It can only be used for a certain amount of time. So your actual credit card number is never exposed, and if someone were able to intercept and get that transaction number, they tried to use it after the time limit, it would be denied. It wouldn't work. So that's one way of protecting your credit cards from being exploited or intercepted online. Of course, if someone's asking you for that information and you fall for it, then you're just giving them keys to your funds. So don't give out personal information. Red flag number 3, suspicious links. When in doubt, call or email a club officer. But these are some things that you can check when you're looking at a message. Is the domain of the business that they're purporting to be accurately spelled? And look very carefully, because sometimes, especially the scammers from other countries, they will use different character sets that look like our Arabic numbers or letters, but are actually from a different kind of alphabet, like Cyrillic in Russia. So there's there could be a similar letter form that looks like one of ours, but it's not really. So check the spelling very carefully. If there's a link, does the link itself, like the domain of that URL, does it match the real company that they're purporting to be? If they're saying, we're from PayPal, and the link in the message doesn't say paypal.com, it's probably not from PayPal. You're going to have the real paypal.com link.
Can't you just mouse over it and see, and the display shows up on your screen if it doesn't match the display on the screen?
Yeah.
There's an incongruity.
That's exactly right. A little bit later in my how-to part. How do you check those links? Sometimes they're exposed, but if it's not, then yes, there's a way of looking at the actual link address to see if it matches. And if you get a message that has shortened links, there was a time when it was very popular to go to a site like Bitly. Have you ever heard of that one? It was a site where you could put in a very long URL, and it would give you a shortened URL version that would forward somebody to the long one, especially in the days when web addresses were just starting to be put into like print advertising, especially. A print advertising, you can't actually click on it. So you'd have to actually spell it out. And if you've got a URL that's dozens of characters, the likelihood of somebody trying to read it and type it in manually and get it correct was much less likely than if it was short. So you would get a service that would shorten your URL so it was something easy to type. Nowadays, everything's just so interlinked, interconnected with hyperlinks. If you got a print advertisement, it's usually just the main domain of the company. Just go to Sears.com or whatever, do a search there to find out what you're looking at. So if you see a message with a shortened link, it looks like gibberish, but likely not something you want to click on. So it's just one of those red flags now, shortened links. Red flag number 4, payment requests. How somebody's asking for a payment will tip you off. If someone's asking for payment in gift cards, no legitimate business transaction is going to ask you for a gift card. You go into Target, you're going to have to pay them cash or use a credit card. They're not going to say, oh, go over to our gift card rack and get 5 Apple gift cards, and then we'll activate them for you, and then you can use those to pay. You're not going to get that in a retail store. Not going to do it in a legitimate online transaction either. Somebody asking for cryptocurrency. This is very much the case with ransomware. They specifically ask for cryptocurrency because they think it can't be tracked easily.
That's misspelled.
Did I misspell it? Oh, I did. Crypto. My spell checker didn't work. So everybody knows there should be an R. Crypto. C-R-Y. I'm not going to fix it on the fly. Somebody asking for a wire transfer. Well, this is still a viable way of sending money to somebody, but it's also a red flag for these scammers. Paying through apps, especially if it's an app you've never heard of. I mean, there's PayPal and Venmo and WhatsApp, of course, that are legitimate apps, and you can use those for paying. You can use those services for paying for things. But if a text message comes in or an email message comes in and it says, we want you to use this payment app to pay us rather than sending us legitimate transaction, another red flag, just to pause and consider to try to verify. Things that are too good to be true, red flag number 5. Unexpected prizes. You might get a telephone call from Publishers Clearinghouse.
Did Johnny won $2 million in a Mercedes?
Oh, excellent. And how much did you have to pay to get that?
It didn't stop laughing, so he hung up.
There you go. And John has mentioned this before too. Publishers Clearinghouse never calls their winners. Never. They show up at your door with balloons and a big check. Huge investment returns. You give us a little money and you'll get a whole bunch back. Free products. You've won a car. Email and text scams. 2 of the major ways we get messages. Phishing. An example of phishing email. You might have a fake sender. It looks like it's from somebody, but it's not. It's a fake. Another giveaway is, especially from these overseas groups, the English is not their first language, so you'll notice bad grammar, punctuation incorrect, things like that. Suspicious links we've already talked a little bit about. A link that doesn't match the company it's purporting to come from, and either you're going to be awarded an exorbitant amount of money. You've won a foreign lottery or an insurance settlement, and of course the infamous Nigerian prince pay you out of his royal funds to get his money out of Nigeria. Here's a little example to look at. The links aren't live here and we can't actually see the links in the bottom, where they actually link to, but this is obviously an example of a fake sender. They're saying they're from PayPal, but the email account that this email is coming from is PayPal accounts at mailbox.com. If you have a PayPal account and you're getting an email from PayPal, it will be at paypal.com at the end, not mailbox. PayPal won't be at the first part. It'll be service or accounts or something at paypal.com. And of course, this also has urgency. You got to solve this in 24 hours. Yeah.
Just this week, I got an email from PayPal. Usually when I look at things that look to be scam, you can see the return email and it's like a long series of it's not. But this was actually paypal.com. But then in the body of it made it suspicious to me because it said, you have been credited. And then I went off of that email and directly to PayPal and called the PayPal number, not the number in the email.
Right. Good.
and they told me what amount I was credited. It was 1 Philippine peso penny, but it was from PayPal, and PayPal told me, yes, this email is from PayPal. But what happens when someone sends you money through PayPal, you get a legitimate email from PayPal, but within that email, the sender can write their own message.
Yeah.
So it's a legitimate PayPal email, but within the legitimate PayPal email is a scam that the scammer.
Right. They're getting more and more sophisticated. I got one very similar to that just this past week. In fact, I've saved it to look at. What threw me, it was from PayPal, but it was addressed to an email address that wasn't mine. It's like I got somebody else's email and I went to my PayPal account and there wasn't even any credit. There wasn't any record of any transaction at all. So I knew it wasn't legit, but I've gotten similar things like that too.
So I knocked up 1 Philippine peso in my PayPal.
Don't spend it all in one place. Philippines is another one of those locations where a lot of scams are coming out of. Okay, here's some examples of package delivery texts claiming to be from, post office, FedEx, or UPS. You never want to click or tap on any links in any text from an unknown sender, and don't reply. You want to delete that text, and if you have the option to report it, do that as well. On the iPhone, anyway, I know if I hit delete on an unknown sender text, I get a dialogue and it asks me, do you want to just delete it or want to delete and report? With the report, at least in the Apple ecosphere, Apple gets a notification, but also the phone carrier gets a copy of it too. So here's a trio of examples. These are all on iOS, but they're all very similar. US Customs, you have a parcel that needs to be cleared. You got 24 hours, you got urgency here. And you'll notice that all of them have a similar feel. One's from Customs, one's from USPS, one's from UPS Ground. Want to reschedule your shipment, but they're like from an unknown number. You wouldn't have probably their number in your database anyway. You'll notice each of them have a link they want you to tap on to reconcile whatever this is. And of course, that's where they're going to start trying to con you into getting information or money or whatever. On iOS, this has been the case for a number of years now. If you got a text from an unknown number and it included any links to the web, they were automatically disabled. You'll notice that all of these links on this, none of them are blue with an underline like you would expect of a live link. That's something Apple put into place for helping to protect their customers. I'm pretty sure that that's also likely on Android's platform as well. However, you'll notice that right below those, there is instructions for you to reply with a Y and then exit out of this message and then come back to it, and then the link will be active for you to tap on. And that's how they tried to get around this protection, because the software, it's a little bit of intelligence, but it's programmed to disable from unknown numbers. But if you were to reply to it, then the software thinks, oh, this must be from someone they know, and then it will reactivate the link. So just by replying to it, you're telling your device that it's okay to activate the link. So you never want to reply. You never want to tap on a link if it comes in live. You might get some that do have live links, even from unknown numbers. There are some exceptions that Apple allows through, I think, like political campaigns and candidates.
Does Android have a counterpart?
I would be surprised if they didn't. I don't know for sure. I would think they would. Or it could be maybe even on the level of the phone carrier might have a way of doing that. Okay, some examples of bank alert messages. We've seen these. There's suspicious activity on your account. You'll get a text from your bank, what it thinks is a fraudulent claim, and they even give you a phone number to call. Never call it. If you have a question about it and you have like a credit card from that bank, get the credit card, call the number that's printed on the back of the card, or go to that bank's website, log into your account, or click on a customer service link on the website. And make sure you go to the website and not from any links in the message. So call your bank's customer service number or log in and then find out what's going on. You might get a message, click or tap this link to challenge this transaction. You didn't spend this money? Well, tell us about it. Don't click or tap on links in email messages or text messages. Contact the bank directly. So here's a couple of short little examples. Suspicious activity. Citibank. We detected unusual activity. It's been blocked out, but it's pretty clear that what's underneath that red redaction rectangle does not say city. It's not a city.com address. And you definitely, if the link is exposed enough to show you a country code, if it's a US company, you won't see a country code in most cases for us. It'll just say .com, but some of them will have .com/ and then a country code or a dot and a country code. And if there's an extra dot after .com with something else, PH or RU, or definitely don't click those. All right, here's an email, a similar kind of thing. Now this is it says it's an actual email, but I think it's a Canadian email. So there's urgency in the subject line. There's false contact information. There's a suspicious link. This one does have a .com.ph in the link, as well as in the email address it's coming from. I doubt if Metro Bank actually sends a message that has an outgoing email address of Jetsaporo at Uniportos Serenadamoru.ph. I don't even think that's English. If it's that exposed, it's pretty obvious there's probably something you don't want to interact with. So how do you check the links for their safety? As was pointed out, you want to hover over the link. This is on a desktop or on a computer where you have a pointing device and an arrow. You just point to it. Don't click on it. Just point to the link. You'll get a little pop-up window that shows you the actual URL. On a smartphone, you can't hover, because if you hover, it doesn't know your finger's there until you touch it. So you don't tap it and release. You tap and hold. And if you hold your finger down on a link on the phone, it'll give you the URL, and it may even give you a preview of the web page. And these scammers will build fake websites that look and feel just like the real thing to try to capture your information. When you get those previews, you want to compare that to the supposed sender. If it doesn't match a business address that's legitimate, like apple.com, microsoft.com, or whatever, citibank.com, if the URL preview doesn't match it, you know right away it's not a safe link. Again, go directly to that website without clicking any links. Open your web browser, type in or use your bookmark for the account if you really do have an account at that institution, and check there, log into your account, or contact their customer service.
You have to be very careful because a simple innocent mistake can give you hard connotations. You get upset about anything political, and you want to send a letter to Washington. You want to send it to whitehouse.gov, because if you say whitehouse.com, you'll be properly surprised.
Yeah, and don't type whitehouse.com on your web browser. You don't want to see that. I don't know what's there. I've just been told. I've heard that many times on late night talk shows, in fact. Okay. Never click or tap links in emails or text from an unknown sender. If the sender doesn't match the link, you don't want to click or tap. Phone scams, another category of scams. Robocalls. Lots of companies use automated calling systems these days. Legitimate and scams are using automated calls. Of course, the scammers are using it because it's efficient. They can program, they can have it calling thousands at a time, and if someone actually answers it, then it may hand you off to a real person. But even when you get a caller ID along with these calls, if it's an unknown caller, your carrier may give you a caller ID of some kind. It can be spoofed. Caller IDs can be spoofed, so don't trust those caller IDs. I got a call from someone not in my address book, and I was waiting for the voicemail to kick in, but the caller ID from T-Mobile said, Arlene, maybe. Obviously, they don't know for sure, so I'm not going to answer that. There are some tools in the smartphones these days to help with that kind of thing. I'll try to show some things in the email anyway on the computer. So, common phone scams, impersonations, the IRS, they say they're from Medicare. I don't know if you've heard of these, the famous your grandchild's in trouble or relatives in trouble. I know that this has been used in texts and emails in the past, but you would think if you get a phone call and it's supposedly your grandchild, you would know for sure by their voice or you would have their number. If it comes from an unknown sender or unknown caller, of course, then maybe they're borrowing somebody's phone. There's this kind of thing. But can you send me some money? I'm stuck in Portugal. I need to get out. Be sure, and if they say they're helping your grandchildren or helping a relative, and they don't know who they are, or even if you think that's them, maybe they've captured somebody's voice and the AI is reproducing it. That's something that we've learned can be done these days. You probably want to hang up and call directly, try to contact that relative directly to find out what's really going on.
There are two variants to that scenario. One is your grandchild's been in an accident, can't come to the phone
Right.
call
Yeah.
them, such and such. And there was another one, which was a real life one. Like, oh, your grandchild was in an accident, blah, 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 and we need this to help get him out of jail or whatever. I don't know. And the person answered the phone, looked left, saw their grandchild, like, oh, I'm so right next to them.
Yeah. Well, they knew right away that one was a scam, didn't they? Tech support scams. You get phone calls from Microsoft, could get them from somebody purporting to be from Apple or whoever, Samsung. This had gotten so pernicious that the major companies now, they will never call you, even for legitimate tech support stuff. You have to initiate a tech support ticket in order to get a call from Apple or Microsoft. You have to use their apps or their website to do so. You can't even call in to a tech support line anymore. They don't publish a tech support phone number. Microsoft and Apple don't anyway. I've looked on Apple's support page and that's true. They don't have any kind of phone numbers you can call. You can click a link and type in your issue and request a call. But if you get a call that you haven't requested from some company offering tech support, it's assuredly a scam. And perhaps another is, political donations. Somebody calls and wants you to support their campaign or their party or whatever. Number one rule to follow, and this covers all this in a way, but all these scams, never give any personal information to someone who calls you, but it applies to texts and emails. You don't want to reply to those and give any kind of information. If someone calls you and you're actually talking to someone, you can tell it's a real person and they're asking you for any kind of personal information, don't give it to them. Hang up. What to do? Hang up. If you want to verify or find out if what they are calling about is really true, look up the official number of whatever business or account that they are purporting to be from and call back yourself. You initiate the contact, not them. You'll probably find out, no, we never called you. How can we minimize some of this? Spam specifically, which is unwanted, but could be legitimate in terms of their who they're from and what they're trying to do, promote something. You want to put the built-in spam and junk filters to use. You want to flag things as junk or spam in your email client. Whether you're using, a local client like Apple Mail or a third-party client, the Microsoft Outlook on your computer, or if you're using the website, google.com or Gmail, if you're using a web browser for email, there will be a way of selecting the message and telling the software, I consider this to be junk or spam. The software should then move it out of your inbox, and that helps the software then build its own little database to recognize those in the future. Unfortunately, as we've said, these scammers and even spammers, legitimate spam can be very sophisticated, and it may take several times showing up in your inbox, the same kind of email subscription or whatever, before it starts automatically filtering it out. You definitely don't want to reply to it, even if it's from a legitimate source, like a store you've have an account with or that you've shopped at. And you get an email from Best Buy and they're telling you we're having a sale, but you don't want to see those and you want to flag it as junk. You definitely don't want to reply to it. Then that tells the software, oh, okay, well, this is legitimate. Anytime we see something from bestbuy.com, we'll just put it in the inbox again. Another thing you can do, though, if it is spam, if it's a spam specifically, you can block the sender. In an email, you can block it. Mechanics might be slightly different, but there should be a way of blocking an email address on any platform. And then this is brought up earlier also, you can unsubscribe, but you want to be careful about how you unsubscribe from a list. Maybe you have legitimately subscribed to an email newsletter. And if that's the case, you could safely click on an unsubscribe link, usually at the bottom of the body of the message, and they will take you off their newsletter list. If it's a legitimate, integrous company, they will do that. However, if it's a questionable spam where you've got some red flags and you think maybe this is scam, you definitely don't want to click an unsubscribe link, because that just tells the scammers there's a person at the other end of this address. And they may not try to get you again, but they pass on your email, sell your email to another distribution list on the dark web or wherever, and you start getting emails from somebody else trying to scam you.
So pop those into junk.
Yeah, pop them into junk. There is another legitimate way that Apple gives us on our devices, but we'll take a look at that real quickly here. Open up my email client here. I've got a number of emails that I've stuck into a folder just to look at. Let's talk about this unsubscribe thing first. This one's legitimate. I have some software that I use that's from a company called Ergonis, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. And the other day, just this month, earlier this week, I got 3 copies of a newsletter about their product that's been updated. And they're all identical. They're all the same, but there are 3 different email addresses. They're all legitimate email addresses of mine. Somehow, I subscribe to their promotional materials with 3 different emails. So this one used to look like this one. One of the things that Apple Mail does for me, and any other Apple customer that uses their mail apps, if it's a subscription, there's an unsubscribe button at the top of the header. Now, there's one down here. This would send a message directly to Ergonis. This one, Apple will unsubscribe for you. This one at the top is a feature of Apple Mail, and I don't know how other email clients do that. There may be others that do similar kinds of things. It may depend on who's providing your email service, whether you're using, MSN.com or Outlook.com or Yahoo.com, whoever's doing it. Or if your email's from your ISP, they probably don't provide this. I could safely unsubscribe to 2 out of the 3, and I could decide which one of these do I want to keep getting legitimate emails. So this one I want to keep. This is my personalized URL or domain, so I can tell this one to. Oh, that one I did, I guess. The unsubscribe thing went away. Anyway, maybe I clicked it. That's one way of unsubscribing more safely, at least if in your Apple ecosphere. Yeah, Ori.
If I understood you correctly, even if you have other emails coming in like Yahoo or Gmail or to your Apple Mail, that is showing up in your Apple Mail.
You can still, yeah. If you've got like I have Gmail coming into Apple Mail, so I could do that with the Gmail stuff too. If it's coming into the Gmail inbox, like I've got 3 different inboxes. My own service that I pay for, and then iCloud is Apple and Gmail is Google. Back down to this PayPal thing we're talking about. Here's this one that's similar to what this gentleman was talking about. I received an email from PayPal. It's a legitimate email from PayPal. Mine wasn't pesos. Mine was 3 cents. I got 3 cents. And it's, US dollars cents. But this part here where you claim your money does say PayPal. See, if I hover over that and I get the URL, it does say paypal.com. But I don't know how this scam really works. but what keyed me off, I knew it was from PayPal, but it's this is the address that it's addressed to. That's not my email address. I don't even know why PayPal would send this to me. So I knew this wasn't anything that I had anything to do with. So I figured this has got to be garbage. If I've got 3 extra cents in my PayPal account, fine, but I'm not gonna interact with it. Like I said, I went to my PayPal account and I do not have a 3-cent balance. I mean, I don't keep a balance at PayPal, and there weren't any transactions putting any money into my PayPal account, so I didn't think it was legit. What I did was I forwarded it. This is gonna come up in a little bit here. You can forward suspected emails right to PayPal. Send it to phishing@paypal.com. You can report it directly to PayPal. Specifically in the case where they've got branding. Now, this actually was from PayPal, but if you got a fake one and they've got branding, there's trademark protection issues there. They can go after them even internationally. The companies may want you to report directly. Since we're short on time, I'm not going to go through any more of these right now. I'm going to see if I can quickly get to the end without spending too much more time. All right, some phone protection tips. You can silence unknown callers now on your phones, software. You can find this in your phone setting apps. It's a good thing to do. That means your phone won't ring at all unless the caller's actual phone number is in your contacts on your device. You can use call blocking apps. These used to be more popular than I think they are now. They used to be even offered by the major carriers as an extra app you could download and put on your device. There may have been even an extra fee involved to do it. I think a lot of that's been rolled right into their services now in terms of the major carriers. It may depend on your specific plan you're paying for. They've gotten on the trying to get on the front end of things to try to knock down the fake phone calls. You can also register still at the National Do Not Call Registry, donotcall.gov. This is legitimate. However, I've found it minimal effectiveness as the scammers know ways of getting around it. Plus, there's a number of exceptions that get allowed through. So if you're a nonprofit organization or a political party or a candidate, those kinds of calls can bypass the Do Not Call. But you can use the Do Not Call website to make sure that your number is at least registered if you don't remember if you have or not. Text message protection, as we talked about. Don't reply, especially don't reply with stop. It's just going to tell them, yeah, I'm here. You can start scamming me now. Don't reply to any unknown senders if you get texts. The text messaging apps, the latest versions, I'm pretty sure this is on Android as well as iOS. They have unknown sender filtering now available. So it'll actually won't even come into the main feed of your messages if it's from an unknown sender. You'll have to actively go to a filter and look at a different view to see if you've got any unknown texts. And then if it is legitimate, you can add the number to your database or your contacts, and then it'll go into your regulars. But you can then delete and report them if they're unknown senders in that list. You can also block senders. Back in the day, I created a contact called Sir Spamalot in my contact. This is before unknown sender filtering, way before. And if I got a text from an unknown sender, it was a spam or scam, I would add that phone number to Sir Spamalot. And Sir Spamalot was a contact that I always kept blocked. So it would cut down on somebody that's trying to use the same number anyway in multiple times. I think that contact has over 100, maybe more phone numbers in it. I haven't had to use it much lately because of the advances in the software filtering out. Reporting spam and scams, where to report. Well, you can report to the Federal Trade Commission, reportfraud.ftc.gov. There's the Anti-Phishing Working Group. It's an independent non-profit that works internationally with law enforcement, and the FBI Crime Complaints Center. They have forms that you can fill out to report scams, emails, and texts. You can also report email scams to your email provider, especially if it's not your ISP. You can check with your ISP if you're using your ISP's email service. If they offer one, definitely report to them. But if you have a third party, Google, Gmail, Yahoo, MSN, whatever, your email client or your web page for your email even may have a report button. So you can highlight the message, click or tap on a report button, and they'll send it to your email provider as a scam or spam. You can also forward, as I mentioned just a minute ago, you can forward it to the company that the scam is purporting to be from. Apple has a report phishing at apple.com. Best Buy has phishing or abuse at bestbuy.com and phishing at paypal.com. If you use other services or companies, check on their website, see if they have a reporting email address that you can use to let them know somebody's trying to use their brand to scam people. In phone scams, you can report to the Federal Communications Commission at consumercomplaints.fcc.gov. And even if you don't use the do not call or you think it's minimally effective, they have a report button as well at the do not call.gov, 2 places to report phone scams. And John wanted to point out you can report scams to service to police or the Cochise County Sheriff, depending on where your residency is. They may not have jurisdiction to go after the bad guys, especially if it's like an international. However, if they're getting lots of reports about the same kind of thing, they will notify the media or they'll put out their own press release so they get the word out into the community to warn people locally about this scam that's going on.
Call 911.
No, don't call 911. This is not an emergency. You want to call the actual number for the police station or the sheriff's department. So what would you do if you get scammed? You want to act quickly, especially if you've shared personal information or money. Report the incident to your local law enforcement, contact your bank, freeze your credit reports, freeze your credit cards, change your passwords on everything online that has anything to do with your finances or your identity. It may take some time to go through all of that, but you want to do it as quickly as you can. Try to minimize the damage and hopefully not lose your identity. You can report the incident to identitytheft.gov, another federal level reporting portal. I believe this is for if you've been scammed and are afraid of having your identity stolen, and especially if you are sure that it has been stolen. Either way, to report the incident to this agency. So there's some important reminders. It's not your fault if you get scammed. These guys are very sophisticated, guys, gals. These scammers, these criminal organizations are very sophisticated these days. Especially with this rise in AI, they are getting more and more hard to flag. Hopefully it never happens to any of us, but don't be embarrassed. Don't feel guilty. Report it. Take some action. Take care of it. Practical safety habits. 5-second safety rule. Before you click or respond to anything that you have a question about, look at it. Do I know who sent it to me? Is there a sense of urgency? Are they asking for money or information? Is there a way I can verify who this is from legitimately? If you're unsure of any of this stuff, stop. Take 5 seconds. Pause. Try to verify who this is from. And then if you are convinced it's a scam, take appropriate action like we've talked about before and report it. So here's a quick checklist. Use strong, unique passwords, and we're going to delve into these things in a couple of months. Turn on two-factor, multi-factor authentication. Use passkeys when you can because they're better than passwords, more secure and easier to use. And keep your device and app operating system software updated. The major players are always issuing security patches, come out periodically. You get an update notification, update your software. And use anti-malware software. Even on a Mac, there is not really any for iPhones or iPads. A lot more closed down. But if you have a desktop computer, laptop, Mac, PC, there's anti-malware software. Use it. So, takeaways. Be skeptical. Never rush. Take your time. Verify independently. Report the scams and practice safe online habits. And I have a handout here with a checklist that you can take one, pass around.
Old school.
Yeah, you can set it by your computer or your phone if you find it helpful. Any last questions before we say goodbye to Pi Day? Okay, hearing none. We will close this out by saying thanks to our sponsors again: Candle Lady, Bella's Candles, Story Power Podcast, SageWoman.life. We will see you next time. Thank you. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day. Take some pie home with you.